Hey, what's up for the connects out there in high vibes? In today's video, I just want to talk about the symbology in the matrix and basically how the agents use symbology to program you and how you can start to understand the symbology of the matrix. Or, you only get it to a certain degree. It's just you have to start tuning into your spirit to understand it to a higher degree, basically. So, basically, so when I talk about symbology, what is symbology? It's a representation of something to give, this hat. When you see this hat, what is it representing? It's the Punisher, basically, from Marvel. Or, you see this Firebird, represents a Firebird. It's all a representation of something. It's a symbol, basically. All this is a symbol. And the same thing goes with, everything's a symbol in life. There's a computer, everything that has been, invented by these, in this matrix is a symbology of something. And you have to start to understand this symbology is used to program your subconscious mind and program you and deceive you into tuning into the false. It's tuning you into the false matrix. It's having you tune into the false reality that these people have created for you. When you start to see reality for what it is, you're going to start seeing how they've used all these things to start programming you, because all these designs are created from spirit, right? Well, they observed it through spirit, basically, and observed through their observations in one of the videos I made, and they started using this, started creating things, They made cell phones, all antennas, When you see an antenna on a car, what do you think that represents? That represents your spine and the antenna, your receiver, basically. And like your brain, goes up, and then you have your head, and there's this antenna. And what can you do? What do you use your head do? You can receive information. You can get extra sensory perception, where you can actually sense things and pick up on energies, right? You can receive like through this video right now. Right now, you are receiving my voice through this technology, which is emitting in a frequency. In what is your antenna, your spine doing? It's picking up, sending electrical impulses, and you're receiving a certain message through what I'm actually speaking, because it's a frequency. But back to the symbology of it, it's all a symbology. Just like a computer, your body is like a P2, basically. And you have to start to understand where they get these concepts, because that's going to help you protect yourself against these type of things, because that's how they influence your mind. This is why they create certain things to program you. That's why they use shapes, sizes, because geometrical shapes, designs, because it's a program, it's a structure, it's a symbology to represent something. And if you're not aware of it, that's how they program people. That's how they get people through subliminal programming. That's how they get people through. That's why they use symbols. That's why they use certain symbols to basically charge up certain items, certain things, basically. You see they got what is it? What can I give a good example of? What is it? I'll use the RTM symbol. Well, see, we all have symbols, right? This is the RTM symbol. That represents RTM. Just like they got the White House in the American flag. There we go. That's a good symbol. They use the red, white, and blue. Those are colors, which emit frequencies. Don't forget that, because everything's energy, right? And that's a symbol to represent. They say America though, but that's a symbol to represent something. There's cars that have symbols on them to represent something. Car brands, certain things, but those are designed in a certain way to still program you, because these symbols and stuff are made through they're through certain. They don't want me to tell you this. Through certain things that they have observed, geometrical shapes, certain things that affect your subconscious mind, basically. That's why when Masons, basically, when they use the square and compass, they're basically, when they do their buildings and stuff, that's through geometrical shapes and certain designs. And that's still, when you see a building and they design it a certain way with certain degrees and things like that, that's still affecting your subconscious mind and your mind, and it's still programming you, because it's all designed in a certain shape and a pattern. Everything is designed through numbers and stuff like that, because it's a physical thing. It's a duality type of thing. It translates to the non-physical. So once you can understand the symbology to certain things, you're going to start to understand and perceive things to a higher degree, because you got to understand the symbology of the matrix, because that's one thing. That's how they still get people, is through symbology, and that's why they use it so much. Why do you think there's hand moochers? Why do you think there's certain things that they use against people? Because it all represents something. It's actually, it's a symbology for something else at the same time. Remember, there's always balance for a reason. So you have to start tuning in to understanding what symbology represents. Do your research. Look up what symbology means, but don't get lost in it. And understand that the symbology isn't what's really true as well at the same time. You have to do your meditations and continue to raise on up, so you can reach a certain stage of consciousness where you start to understand what the symbology represents. all the different hand moves, people are doing, because there's all sorts of stuff that are going on. And they don't want you to understand that, because once you do, you can start protecting yourself and start to see from a higher perspective. See that there's a reason why they want your consciousness to be like this instead of your consciousness being like this. Because if your consciousness is like this and there's all this other information that is up like this, and but let's say they're down here, right? And you want to get your consciousness up here. And they're trying to keep you in this lower state of consciousness where you're just in the underworld, where you're not able to perceive things, but they understand what the symbology is of what they're doing and stuff like that, so they can program you and keep you in a certain bandwidth so you can't actually see things. So you want to make sure that you start to raise your consciousness and your awareness. That's why I made a video about becoming observant, because then being observant is very important, and by meditating, you're going to become more observant of the things that are around you. And the more you start to do your inner and outer search on certain things, you're going to start to understand what this symbology represents. And you want to do that because you want people programming you and dictating the way you live, and influencing the way you should be living your life, because you want to live through spirit, because when you live through spirit, that's going to change the world. And we all should be striving towards a better world, basically. And I'm going to take a sip real quick. That's delicious. But anyways, start to do your research. Understand the symbology that is out there. They don't want you to understand symbology because, everything has a representation of stuff, and just basically start to understand it. That's why I can't explain it to the fullest degree, because you have to go within to understand it, basically, so that way you can fully get it. Because you'll only get this message to a certain degree. Because if you're tuned in to your body, you're gonna think of body information. If you're tuned into your mind, you're gonna get the mind info. And if you're tuned in your spirit, you're gonna get that higher information, because it flows with spirit, basically. And you want to flow with spirit, because that's really important to start understanding these things to a higher degree, and allowing yourself not to have your ego control you, because that ego is going to be that blockage from actually getting, say spirit's right here. Basically, spirit's in the middle, or spirit is like spirit's across the bridge, right? And your ego's at the front of the bridge, and basically the ego is saying no, you don't want to go that way. There's like a underground pathway, and the ego's like, no, you want to go that way, and it's trying to point you go that way, but you don't want to follow the ego. You want to go to spirit, because spirit's by the river, and if you go to that river, it's going to be fresh and clean. And the ego's like, no, you want to go towards the dirty water, basically, but you don't want to go towards the dirty water. Would you go drink a bunch of dirty, mucky water? Would you? No. No one wants to drink dirty, mucky water. So by meditating, you're going to get that fresh, clear water, and that's what you want to do, is get that fresh, clear water, because when you're in the ego, you become stagnant. The ego's not evolving, it's de-evolving. You're going in a downward spiral of chaos, and you're not actually getting momentum in your life. You're actually going downhill. If you're supposed to be going uphill in your stage of consciousness, and the ego's telling you, if your ego's having you go down, and if nothing moves, if the ego's stagnant, the ego doesn't evolve. Your spirit's supposed to evolve, because if you look at nature, nature's always growing. It's flowing. It's constantly changing and evolving. And this video, symbology. You have to understand the symbology of certain things in this world, so you can start to understand to a higher perspective. And that's all I want to say in this video. Start to see these messages and these symbologies and symbolic things that are out here, because spirit leaves messages for those who can see. It's just, what are you tuning into? So my full gratitude to those watching. Peace and out with my highest vibrations, and my full love and high vibe.